Welcome back to Sunday Vibes, one and all, and we are back in the pub. Massive shout out to the Rookery on Clapham Common. If you want to get a beer in Clapham, come to the Rookery because that is where we have been hosted today. Doogie, Hamster, boys, how good is it to be back?
Oh, feels incredible. I was thinking before, I haven't done a shoot with you guys in person since March 2020. And I've missed it, guys.
That is mad.
That can't be real.
It genuinely hasn't. I've seen you guys, but I haven't done a shoot with you, so I'm absolutely buzzing to be back.
You know, when I saw Doogie strolling past Clapham Common in his shorts, I got a little bit choked up. I thought, here we go. Just like old
It's
times.
Sunday Vibes time.
Absolutely unreal. And this episode of Sunday Vibes is brought to you by our good friends at Bud Light, the official beer partner of the England football team. In this week's episode of Bullard's Boxheads, Carlton Cole entered the John Arne Risa and produced this.
Love it. He loves that corner. Melv, you know where it's going. He ain't changing corners for love nor money. Melv!
So stick around towards the end of this episode to see how that went and get your hands on the Bud Light Boxhead yourself. You can get that in the description below. 3 players to choose from: Trippier, Walker, Pickford.
I'm going Pickford, ex-Sunderland, big tournament ahead of him, been some doubts over him over the last couple of years, but I want the Jordan Pickford box set.
Okay.
I'm going Slabhead, back in training today. Come on. Not an option, but I've gone for it.
Not an option. I'm picking Kieran Trippier because he might be a United player in 2 months' time.
Very diplomatic. I'm going for Walker because he's the best player out of all 3.
Okay, yeah, probably true. Let's move on then, because today is England Day, isn't it? It comes home from today. I am absolutely buzzing about this one. So we're going to have a look at whether or not England can win this tournament today. Will it happen? Because England are the favourites with the bookies for the tournament, 4-1. Unreal. It's very close between us and France, to be fair. But what do we think of the other rivals? Let's start with Belgium, shall we? Because they're the 3rd favourites. Hamster, how do you assess them?
So what I thought we could do this episode was basically go through the rest of the favourites and discredit them to make us feel better about England coming home. So a little bit partisan, a little bit biased, but what I've done is I've gone through the best teams and basically found their weakness, their Achilles heel. And with Belgium, I think it is definitely that ageing defence.
100%.
So, you know, in a couple of tournaments gone by, they've had the likes of Vincent Kompany, Alderweireld and Vertonghen in their pomp. Now, Jason Denayer splits the 2 that I just mentioned, and they've all got a little bit older. They've all got a little bit slower. Denayer still playing to a very high level in France, of course, has had a couple of very good seasons, and I think he will be crucial to them. But they're stacked up front, but vulnerable on the counter. And I know they were great in qualification, scored 40 goals, only conceded 3. But they have been vulnerable of late. You know, drew with Greece, have had some shaky moments against the Czech Republic. I think they were outshot by a severely weakened Czech Republic, by the way. And yeah, Roberto Martinez is scratching his head on the sideline in weeks gone by. Also very risky, you know, playing Torgan Hazard at left wing back.
That left side is a problem with Vertonghen and on the left centre back role, and then Torgan Hazard as a wing back.
Yeah, definitely, because he commits. Like, his role in that team is to be a really aggressive presser, to almost arrive late in the box on the left-hand side, because they do a lot of their progression down the right. Obviously, that's where KDB is, if he's injured, if he's got, you know, 2 working eyes, touch wood, because he's a fantastic player to watch, isn't he? So if they don't have KDB, I imagine Dries Mertens will go out there, maybe Carrasco and Torgan Hazard will play on the left-hand side, and that makes that left-hand side defensively so vulnerable. So that is the sort of weakness that I spotted. I mean, in terms of experience, I think they have the most caps per player, so they've got that nous in there to maybe deal with it, but an injury to that back line, and all of a sudden I think that's one of the favourites dismissed.
Wow. Dukes, what are your thoughts on Belgium?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have been quite harsh on them. As Hamel mentioned, I think only Denayer is the one under 30 of their centre-backs. But there's a lot of experience in there as well. I think it really depends on how De Bruyne plays, and obviously Lukaku as well. He's got a phenomenal international goal-scoring record, Romelu Lukaku. Continues to get better and better. And Dries Mertens is just a seasoned veteran in that sort of area as well. So they're not looking as strong as they were in 2018, probably. And this tournament had maybe come a year too late. If this had been played in Euro 2020 as it was supposed to, I'd been a bit stronger on them. But I still think I got them in the sweepstake as well. So they're my 3rd team behind England. And
Traitor.
Yeah, I think they'll do okay. The group's piss easy for them. So they're going to absolutely rinse the group. Lukaku score a bucket load. But that Eden Hazard's lack of form coming into the tournament is a problem.
Torgan Hazard hasn't played a lot as well.
Yeah, Axel Witsel in the midfield. I mean, he's really played since January, has he? And if Dendoncker has to play that role, I think Dendoncker's okay, but he's pretty limited, isn't he?
Yeah.
We've seen those sort of problems exposed at times for Wolves. So I think they do have issues, but not dramatic issues. So I think they'll get out of the group, but later in the tournament, when they come up against top teams, that defence I can see getting run all over.
Yeah.
A bit of pace in behind it. We know Roberto Martinez struggles to coach defence, and I can see it falling to tatters. But they do have Lukaku. Lukaku can drag them through games single-handedly, I think. So Belgium have got massive problems at the back, I think.
Well, I think you're right to flag the Witsel thing as well.
Yeah.
Because if Witsel is fit, then of course he protects that back two, back three much better than Dendoncker. He's much more mobile. I think has greater match intelligence. I mean, he's done a wonderful job, a similar job for Dortmund, hasn't he?
Always plays well for Belgium.
Protecting them in transition as well. So yeah, that could be crucial, his fitness. But we'll see. Hopefully it all goes Pete Tong.
Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. But we're not writing them off. I mean, Spain, who are the next favourites, I think they are slightly struggling more than everybody else after... We don't know what's happened when you're watching, but when we're currently recording, training's being messed around, the COVID bubbles having to be informed.
Shocking.
It's been terrible preparation for Spain, Dukes.
Oh, once again as well, because this obviously happened in 2018, not with COVID, of course,
Yeah.
but Lopetegui having to stand down, then Hierro came in for the tournament, and then when Luis Enrique had to step down for personal reasons, like a year later, Roberto Moreno came in, then Luis Enrique came back, so it's been a really turbulent time for them. I think on paper, if they have their best 11 available, I think in the midfield, it's still incredibly strong.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at Rodri, Koke, Thiago. They've got Pedro who can come in, of course, as well. Marcus Llorente, Fabian Ruiz, of course, as well. So, like, that midfield is stacked, but I think they're probably lacking that sort of lethal number 9 they've had in previous Euros or World Cups when they've been successful. You know, Fernando Torres, David Villa, etc. I'm not that overwhelmed with starting Morata up front, despite the fact he's had a good campaign for Juventus. And then...
What, would you start Gerardo Moreno?
I probably would, yeah. I think he's the guy in form.
He was a nightmare
No.
against United in the Europa League final. He caused us massive problems with his physicality, running in behind, set pieces, he was a problem as well.
He can play on that left-hand side too, can't he, Moreno? And I think I have said on previous shows that they are lacking an elite number 9, and that is the sort of obvious weakness. I agree. But having done a little bit more digging, I do think that Morata is quite important to the way that they play, because I think Luis Enrique insists on a bit more verticality. They're a little bit more fervent in the press. Yeah, exactly. A little bit more direct. And you know, when Morata drops off, he is a really good outlet for them in terms of link-up. And I think that is one of the things he excels at, basically. We know he's not. He sometimes gets a little bit flustered in front of goal. He's very good in the air, but very good at just linking up play. And I do think this Spain side needs that. And when he's got Ferran Torres running off him on the other side, when he's got the sort of cultured Dani Olmo on the left-hand side, they are a nice little triumvirate.
There's pressure on Ferran Torres to score goals, though, I think. I think that Spain squad is lacking goals.
See the goal against Kosovo?
I know.
Wow.
And Ferran Torres' international record is unreal. When he was,
got a hat-trick against Germany
when he played, he scored goals for City, but when you look at the calibre of strikers amongst some of the other competition for Spain in this tournament and forward lines, I think Spain's is weak. That forward line is weak, stacked up against England, stacked up against France, stacked up against Portugal.
The depth's not really there, I agree, for sure. But I do like the complexion of that front three and the midfield three as well, like Dougie mentioned. Fullback, a little bit more contentious. Is he going to start Gaia? Is he going to start Alba?
Yeah.
Obviously, the match against Sweden happens tomorrow, so we don't know. Gaia kind of played against Portugal, didn't he? And Germany, got a couple of assists, I think, in that match, but Alba's played some World Cup qualifiers. And of course, without Busquets, Alba becomes captain, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because it goes down in caps. So I think Enrique may want to play him owing to his experience at this point. But what would you say about the defence? Because I'm equally as worried about Spain's defence as the forward line. You know, Garcia. I mean, who else is playing back? Maybe Pau Torres, Laporte. Yeah, I mean, Laporte's class.
Laporte should solidify a certain amount, but Luis Enrique already made such big headlines in not picking Sergio Ramos. But actually, probably the more dramatic pick was not picking Nacho. Because Sergio Ramos has only played, I think, twice since January, whereas Nacho was really, really good for Real Madrid, particularly in the Champions League towards the back end of the year. So I think he maybe made a little bit of a rod for his own back there. And I think we've got Diego Llorente as being one of the guys that's tested positive as well, who played pretty well for Leeds towards the back end of the year. So It's not that star-studded lineup that you've seen in previous years, but I picked them to be my flop when we had to do that for I think it's
Yeah,
We Need
for
to
We Need to Talk, yeah.
I picked them to be my flop, but I don't say that with any confidence.
Yeah, I have to say though, I do think they've got the best manager at the tournament.
Okay,
I think Luis Enrique is actually the best manager at the tournament. So if anybody can find solutions to these problems, because I think there is a bit of a dearth of quality of managers at the Euros this year. Like there's a lot of man managers ahead of proper tacticians, I think, which is classic for international football. But if anybody can find solutions, I think Luis Enrique will. Laporte's inclusion in the squad is a huge dub for them. Like that is a massive win for Spain, being able to include a player of his calibre, despite the fact he hasn't played huge minutes for Spain this season. He is still one of Europe's outstanding centre-backs.
Absolutely.
He has modernised them a little bit. Like I said earlier, under Enrique, they are less hung up on possession and they are a little bit more intent on just getting the ball to those destructive forward players as quickly as possible. So I don't think we're going to see death by 1,000 passes that we've become accustomed to.
No.
But yeah, not got past a round of 16 since what, the 2012?
Since Euro 2012.
Euro 2012 tournament. So yes, they got to right some wrongs of the last few tournaments. And I can see them. I think if they reach the quarters or the semis, it would be mission accomplished. Like this is quite a young side.
Chaos beforehand.
I think so as well.
They are in transition. Yeah, they're currently training in 3 batches of 8.
This is a disaster.
They have 5 players on standby training in their own bubble. I think that's the likes of Bryce Mendes,
And they can't mix
Rodrigo,
Carlos
Carlos Soler, who's uncapped by the way. Yeah, but no team is coming into this tournament off the back of worse preparation than Spain, and I do feel for them, but I think it's going to make things much harder.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is real problematic to not be able to socialise with your teammates, especially when you're all coming from different clubs in the build-up to a tournament. I think that really hurts you. I think England,
when you're already in a bubble as it is.
Yeah, exactly. I think England have shown over the last couple of tournaments that team cohesion is actually a massive factor around international tournaments. Let's move on then to Italy, the next side we're going to be talking about. And Italy, I think, could be dark horses for this tournament. I've said it on a few shows. I don't think they're going to win it, but I think Mancini is, alongside Enrique, one of the better managers at the tournament. I think he's got them playing some fantastic football. What are they, 29, 30 games unbeaten now? And I really like some of these young players that have come through. And they're not too young, sort of 18, 19-year-olds. They're sort of 23, 24-year-olds. You know, the likes of Barella, who've had sensational seasons at club level with teams like Inter Milan. I think they've got a nice mix, this Italian side. The defence also a little bit like the Belgians, though, slightly on the old side, particularly the likes of Bonucci and if Chiellini needs to be utilised. But, you know, Spinazzola's pretty decent. You've got Gianluigi Donnarumma in the stick. I like Italy this year. I don't think they're going to win it, but I think they'll do some serious damage to some top teams.
Yeah, the Renaissance has been great, hasn't it? And I like that Mancini has entrusted youth, which is largely unsurprising given that he made his Serie A debut, I was reading this morning, at 17 years old. So he clearly has no problem picking young players if they're good enough. I think we saw that with Zaniolo, who was picked before he made his Serie A debut, right? That was a real signal of intent after some terrible years under Ventura. I think Ventura made a good start and then it just went quickly downhill, didn't it? I think they got slapped by Spain and that sort of signalled the end of his reign. But I think Mancini has been the best manager they've employed since Conte, even before Conte. Who's in charge before Conte? It was Prandelli as well, wasn't it? Cesare Prandelli. And so they've sorted themselves out. Like I said, they've got this kind of fresh identity. It's called Tiki Italia. So it's a little bit more progressive.
God's sake.
It's a little bit more progressive than we used to.
Who comes up with these names?
I don't know. I quite liked it though.
I really hope that's not the Italians coming up with that.
Italian Twitter.
Yeah, with football Twitter, nailed on.
I quite liked it, but he's built this team, Mancini, around the likes of Verratti, Jorginho, and I can't remember, Insigne. That's his other key component. Insigne's been incredible for them. There's a fluidity about them going forward. I think they set a new unbeaten record or consecutive win record that had stood since 1939. So the feel-good factor is back, which can't be underestimated when talking about Italy, because not qualifying for that 2018 World Cup was apocalyptic, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was massive. I think that they've got a really interesting front line. I'm intrigued to see how it works. I mean, Domenico Berardi as well on the right-hand side. He's got a phenomenal goal-scoring record for Sassuolo. Ciro Immobile has obviously been awesome for Lazio, but has struggled really to do it outside of Lazio. Obviously, the Italian national team's slightly different, but they've got the option of Belotti off the bench as well, who looks like he's joining Roma. So they're pretty well set, and I think that midfield three, if it works how it's supposed to, could potentially be one of the best in the tournaments alongside France.
Yeah.
Like that is just phenomenal. Verratti, Jorginho, Barella, with Locatelli coming off the bench potentially.
Locatelli, he's going to go to Juventus as well.
Jorginho is going to be a key component for this Mancini team, and I think towards the back end of the season, fans finally started to reappreciate really what Jorginho could do. He was so vital for Thomas Tuchel, playing in that almost, when Kante went forward, it was almost like a single pivot in front of the back three and allowing the centre-backs who, Rudiger's not the best passer of the ball, to be able to give the ball into him when he was under pressure. He would happily take it and switch the play, and I think that'll be very similar for Italy at the Euros.
If there's enough control around Jorginho, he's a phenomenal player. It's just when he's left in wide open spaces, he's not quick. But he's a very good player.
Florenzi's a problem though.
Yeah, slightly weak.
Sure
they do have Di Lorenzo, who's the Napoli right back, who's very good going forward.
I think with Jorginho, you get those fixed patterns of play, and it will make. We've said that the defence might be a little bit of a vulnerability, but they've got legs in front of them, haven't they? Like Barella used to be a defensive midfielder as well. He cut his teeth in that DM position growing up in Cagliari, didn't he? So they've got adequate cover, and I think when you've got someone like Jorginho, players know, okay, I can pass to him. He's going to funnel it out to here. Like he's a good escape route for people that aren't as comfortable in possession as him. And I think that's going to be quite telling. But
we hadn't even talked about Chiesa, by the way.
Yeah.
Or
Bernardeschi's great for Italy as well. He turns it on for Italy.
Chiesa could easily be one of the standout stars in the tournament. Sensational for Juventus this season, even though he hasn't started, I think, over 30 games. I think it's about 22 starts in Serie A, but still a really useful player, versatile as well. So I don't know whether Mancini will use him on the left or the right yet. I think it'll probably depend on the opposition. But this Italy team is nice. It's tidy.
He was by a distance Juve's best player in the latter stages of the Champions League. I mean, they didn't get that far, but in those Porto legs, I remember it was Chiesa who was really the difference.
And Donnarumma's got his move to PSG now. That looks like that's done and dusted, doesn't it? So he'll be absolutely delighted. I'm sure he'll be coming into the tournament on a high.
Mino will be very delighted as well.
Mino's definitely going to be. Mino's going to be fucking buzzing.
What did he? He bought Al Capone's house with the Pogba money, didn't he? So what other famous gangster's house is he going to buy with the Donnarumma money?
Escobar's move out to Colombia. All right. So the other sides then we need to look at really. Should we do? I mean, we've got Germany and France to talk about, but should we do Portugal as well? I feel like Portugal is a good talking point,
for sure.
Because their front line, maybe alongside England's, is the best at the tournament. Like France have got the best squad by a mile, best depth, but I think isolating just the forward lines.
Do you not think France is?
No, I think that Portugal and England have deeper forward lines than France.
Maybe deeper. I can't really look past Benzema and Mbappe, Griezmann for the best front.
That is exceptional, but equally, I think the depth of Portugal, to have, whether it's Bruno, João Felix, Cristiano Ronaldo, Bernardo Silva, Andre Silva, I think they match up England for the depth. France obviously have the outstanding starting three, but behind them not as strong, I don't think, as some of these players like João Felix not being able to get a start.
The only thing I worry about Portugal is they only brought three centre-backs. Ruben Dias, Jose Font and Pepe.
Done in England.
And Pepe is 38. So if there's an injury to one of them, they've kind of left themselves up to the creek. But Cancelo, Guerrero on their wing-backs, that is ideal if you're going to dominate the ball. The only thing that Fernando Santos is quite known for being quite negative. He's not necessarily the most forward-thinking manager. He's a bit of a legend there, obviously, after winning Euro 2016.
And the Nations League, mate. Don't forget the Nations League. Come on.
Ronaldo, well, actually, he'll probably go through till 2022, Ronaldo. But it's one of his final tournaments. You back him. He needs 6 goals for the international goal-scoring record.
Yeah.
He's going to be fully motivated. I think Portugal will go
far.
But
I think Bruno's going to do some damage as well.
It's that group that...
Giving Bruno a month off is like giving 6 months rest to some other players. Honestly, he just needs a week off, Bruno, and he's finally got it. He was popping it last night. Scored 2 absolute worldies.
So what do you think is going to be the final standings in the group of death then?
The group of death, I think France is going to win it. France are the best team out of the Euros. I think France are the best team of the Euros.
I think they are the best team as well, but I just can see them. There will be a shock in that group.
France, Portugal.
I think France might go through second.
I remember in the early stages of the World Cup, France were unbelievably boring to watch, and I was like, please, France can't win the World Cup. I remember doing a preview show with Smithy and being like, this France team cannot win the World Cup. It'd be bad for football. But Deschamps is a bit like, Dunga, isn't he? That they can grind out results in the group stage and then they hit their stride like in the knockout rounds. And I fear that may happen again. But I agree, maybe not as close as people
So
think.
who do you think Portugal could top the group? We haven't even discussed the Germans.
The Germans have an unreal front line and midfield. They've been tinkering around with their formation. Joachim Löw's at an all-time low in terms of his popularity. Their ideal centre-back pairing would probably be Rudiger and Hummels, but they haven't really played together that much. But they've got, obviously, Kimmich is so good, obviously in midfield, but their midfield is so good with Kroos, Gundogan and Goretzka that Kimmich is going to play at right back. That is just unreal. I think Germany, people are sleeping on Germany. I think they'll be very good as well. This group, I have no idea. I genuinely have no idea.
I'm not as hot on them. I think they could be one of the best third place sides though. And I think they could definitely take points off of Portugal. I think France might give them the runaround a little bit, but I definitely think there's going to be issues for them in terms of squad depth. I think Serge Gnabry will have a really good tournament.
You've been hot on Serge Gnabry for a while.
I think Serge Gnabry will be played through the middle by Joachim Löw. I think he might be played as the central striker with Timo Werner on the left, Leroy Sané on the right. Yeah, he's got the best goals to cap ratio of anyone at the Euros. So I think Serge Gnabry stands a chance of being an outside shout of a golden boot or something like that, just where he scores a hat-trick in one game.
So I am denied about it, but I'm going, for some reason, Portugal to win the group. Who do you guys think?
So Portugal, France, Germany?
Yeah.
I'm going France, Portugal, Germany.
Yeah, I think I'd follow suit as well. It's just the end. I know it's the end of an era for Joachim Löw, and he's brought his tenure short, hasn't he? He could have taken this team to the 2022 World Cup, and that, for me, doesn't bode well. I don't think they're going to be as fired up, and that might not, play a massive part. But yeah, just not hot on them at all.
They finished bottom of the group at the 2018 World Cup, and that group was absolutely grim.
They had a really underwhelming Nations League as well. And I think that's a little bit more indicative of where the team is at than the Euro qualifications, which of course they pissed.
Everybody
they
pissed
finished
the European
They
qualifications.
did lose to North Macedonia in March.
At home.
2-1, yeah. They finished a couple points ahead of the Netherlands, and that was a resurgent Netherlands under Ronald Koeman. But yeah, they had I think maybe 1-2, drew 3, lost 1 at the UEFA Nations League. So.
It's just on paper.
They turn up, though,
it's just on paper. It looks like a very
classically,
sexy
the Germans do turn up.
I don't know. He's just not turned over the side in the same way that they did, 2006, 10, 14. So
I think 2022, when Hansi Flick's in charge and he bloods a load of the new youth lads and Jamal Musiala's a year later and Florian Wirtz is a year later, I think they'll stand
They're an in-between,
better
aren't they?
chance. But at the moment, I think they'll go through as one of the best third place sides though. So we're saying England stand a chance. We haven't discussed England because we're going to do a quick fire section in a minute on England's questions, and lots of people sent them in about England. But for now, check out this little one from Carlton Cole from Bud Light.
Stand in the corner. There you go, every time. This boy ain't changing corners.
Again, if you guys at home want to get your hands on some of those limited edition Bud Light box heads, click the link in the description below. Luckily enough for us as well, the Bud Lights have just arrived. Cheers, fellas, by the way. First time back in
that
the
was
pub.
organic, not planned at all.
Absolutely delightful
Sorry, I
to be
just
back.
aired you there as well. Come on.
Okay, right. Let's talk about England because we had so many questions sent in. We've kind of condensed them down. First one, did the warm-up games change anything for you about this England side?
Good question.
Good question, very good question. I didn't watch the Austria game, I couldn't watch. I was travelling somewhere, I can't remember where, but I watched the Romania game. I think there was a lot of questions still to be answered. A bit nervous that we're shooting this on a Thursday. We don't really know who's going to play at the back. We don't really know the composition of our midfield. You'd probably expect it to be Rice and Bellingham at this point. We don't really know who's going to play up front.
Hendo plays, he's going to start him.
There are a lot of question marks going into a major tournament. So I'm a little bit nervous. But yeah, I think two solid results, not two great performances, but they're easing way in. And we were without the Man City and Chelsea players who do make an enormous difference as well.
Yeah, I think Croatia are going to be left guessing very much about what tactics and who they're going to be faced, which is going to do us a real favour potentially because they're not going to be able to line up and match players up and think we can man mark Foden.
Yeah.
Foden doesn't play. Do we then switch and man mark Grealish? I think the only thing that the warm-up changed for me was that Jack Grealish has to start. I would have said prior to this he wouldn't be a starter for me. I probably would have gone Foden, but for me, Grealish is England's best player. And I think that's the reason, just get him in the team, whatever the cost. Harry Kane's obviously like a better goal scorer, he's going to put up huge numbers, but Grealish, in terms of technical football ability, is our best footballer.
Yeah.
Like, get him on the ball and he is going to do damage, he's going to win free kicks. So for me, he's got to start, and I think at the weekend, because Harry's not going to be
Yeah.
fit, we're going to see a back three.
It's actually becoming very hard to go against that narrative as well. People are actually starting to insist that Grealish starts when it wasn't a given before those warm-up matches. So in that regard, I do think that's kind of swayed it for a lot of people, just his performances in those
Definitely.
games. I was probably a little bit hotter on Jadon Sancho before that Austria match. Don't think he did himself any favours there, although we weren't exactly fluid going forward, were we? Had a couple of good runs from Grealish, but other than that, a little bit stagnant. I was impressed by Ben White. Like, he looked of international calibre. He looked composed. I wasn't expecting anything else, to be honest. But Ben Godfrey, by comparison, looked a little bit nervous, a little bit stiff in that right back position. So I think he made the right decision taking White. He looks a little bit more tournament ready. I don't think he's gone too far wrong with selection. I think one of the major headaches is that, is it going to be back three? Is it going to be back four?
It's got to be on Sunday without Maguire.
Will
Has
Luke,
to be, surely.
will Luke Shaw start as a left centre-back?
That's another thing we learned. Mings.
Oh, God.
Against Austria and Romania.
Wasn't great, was it?
My goodness.
I know you in particular weren't particularly impressed.
I mean, he
don't
should have
know.
been sent off against Austria. Elbow in the face. VAR looks at that. That's a red card and a penalty in the international tournament. And against Romania, he just deciding to fly out of the line of a back four and try and get your foot in is all well and good when you're playing Burnley. When you're playing international football, hold your line. Players will beat you inside out.
It's amazing how much better Ezri Konsa and Tomori have become since not being selected, though. Which I was all behind Konsa being included in March. He wasn't going to be picked having never been included in a squad before this. And Tomori, I thought, was the wrong decision as well. But yeah, Mings and Cody, it's a little bit baffling. I don't know why we've suddenly gone with Connor Cody in the last year or so when we've tried to move away from a back three, which is what he really delivers in and so well for Wolves. But he'd be a good understudy for Stones if he's going to play in the centre of that defence. And to be honest, I'm not against a Shaw, Stones, Walker back three.
Should we try and guess Gareth starting 11?
Okay.
Let's try and guess Gareth starting 11 for Sunday.
I think there's only four.
So
definites.
Pickford's definitely
Pickford's definitely in. Rice is definitely in. I would be very surprised if Mount isn't, and Harry Kane will be in.
Okay.
The rest, I think, is.
So are we going to say it's going to be a back three because Maguire's not going to play. He came back to training today. Thursday, he's not going to be fit.
Yeah.
So back three.
I mean, after watching Henderson versus Austria as well, I don't see a Henderson starts. Like, he's not.
But he's gonna.
He's not tournament ready.
I
so
agree. But he's
we're
gonna.
guessing what we think Gareth is going to
not
do.
what we think he should, because we all probably think Bellingham should start, but he won't.
I think Bellingham's ready for sure.
But if we're guessing what he thinks, not what we want, what he will do.
So we're going 3-5-2 or 3-4-3.
I reckon Shaw, Stones, Walker as a back three.
Yeah, and then
Chilwell.
Well, you've already told me the complexion of what you think the midfield is going to be off camera. So go for it.
I think Chilwell went left wing back.
Yeah.
And then I think Trippier right wing back. That's a tight one between him and James. I think it'll be Henderson and Declan Rice as a midfield pivot. Yeah, I think Henderson will get picked, even though it should be Bellingham. I think it'll be Mount, Sterling, Kane. And I think there's plenty of issues I would have with that. I wouldn't be playing Henderson. I'd have Bellingham. I'd have Grealish over Sterling. I'd have probably...
Well, this is very reminiscent of the 2018 World Cup, isn't
probably
it?
James at right wing back, but...
Which, it's like Doogie said, we were trying to move away from, because even with those two floating eights, which were Dele Alli and Jesse Lingard at the time, right, just couldn't score from open play. 3 goals from 12 came from open play. And we did look a lot more fluid in that 4-3-3, particularly in qualification, looked solid in the UEFA Nations League, particularly that match against Belgium. So I'll be disappointed if, like, Harry Maguire's injury meant a back three. I can see why, I can sympathise.
But would you rather a back three or a back four that included Tyrone Mings?
Yeah,
I mean Ben White above Tyrone Mings.
But he's not. But he won't. He's left-footed centre back. He would be the left plays in a four.
You can play Stones on the left.
It's not going to happen.
I don't want to see Mings in a back four either, to be totally honest.
That could happen.
I think the criticism online went a little bit too far with him, but like we said in our England preview, like, he is quite rash. He's not the best on the ball, like, in terms of maintaining possession. His distribution's not the best, so it would be quite a brave decision to pitch him up in a back four against who's going to play really mobile forwards. Kramaric, Petkovic is massive. Rebic is a nightmare to play against because he works in between those lines. So,
and England score a lot of their goals from set pieces, and if we play that side, there's only what I can think of: Declan Rice, John Stones, and Harry Kane above 6 foot. And set pieces are key for us. Like, Mason Mount's delivery from set pieces will be huge for us if it's him. If not, it might be Trippier. but I can see it potentially being Mason Mount. Who's he delivering it to? When we had Harry Maguire back there, we had Eric Dyer charging.
True, it's a very short team.
It's a small team, so it's a very different complexion, and all of our goals come from set pieces at World Cup 18. So
yeah, so you're reverting back to a system that proved that it can bear own goals from open play with smaller players.
Yeah.
It's not the greatest of starts.
we all want a 4-3-3, don't we? That includes Jude
100%.
Bellingham and 2 wingers.
I'm really perplexed on the eve of the tournament about like what 11 he's going to put out, but that's part of the fun.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's just unfortunate in that there's not that many high-quality English centre-backs right now.
No,
And
there's
it's
not.
just really unfortunate. We've got a plethora of great wingers. We've got a really good depth in forward areas as well. I think
Full-backs.
like Bamford, Watkins, not even making it. Full-backs, amazing.
Yeah.
But centre-backs and goalkeeper, quite crucial if you want to win a tournament,
But-
not necessarily the strongest.
Okay, so if he is taking Mings, like what I take umbrage with is that like an injury to one centre half should not change your entire system. But what we're saying is
It does
that,
though, because he's so key, Maguire, isn't he? He's such a big player for England.
But then,
But just the depth-
why
the depth isn't
bring
good enough,
Mings
I
and
suppose.
Cody if we're going to have to revert to a back three in order to draft them in?
Well, I did think this. If we do play the back three on Sunday, what was the point in taking Cody if he's not going to play in the back three and he
Yeah.
plays 2 fullbacks in there as well? You may as well have taken Godfrey or Concert or Tomori, because if he's not going to play in the back three, it's a total waste of time taking him at all, because he's not going to play in the back 4.
But this is what I said. What was it, 2 weeks ago? Like, and they're both 28. Like, this is probably like the zenith of their England career as well.
It's a huge. Harry Maguire's injury is a massive. I remember Gary Neville saying on Monday Night Football that Harry Kane is England's best player, but Harry Maguire will be the biggest miss if he's injured, and he's bloody injured.
Yeah.
And now you look at it, Gary was spot
The
on.
good thing about this system is Chilwell's played left wing back all year for Chelsea and played it very well towards the end of the year. Trippier played it all year for Atletico Madrid, played it very well as well. Reece James would be great in there as well. And then you've got Grealish, who's in great form despite playing about 4 games since coming back from injury. Mason Mount's been phenomenal all year, and Harry Kane
Mount's
is just
been
Harry
phenomenal
Kane.
as well.
There are reasons
In
to
a
be
3
positive.
system.
I think we're maybe being a bit over negative, and it's my nature in the week before a major tournament. I just get a bit nervous, a bit negative. But it should be all right. I think we should be Croatia.
And Mount has played that system and been brilliant in it, playing in a 3 in the back as a floating 8 with 2 players in behind him. Obviously, he's had Kante and Jorginho, and it's Rice and potentially Bellingham or Henderson. But he knows that system inside out. That's set up for him perfectly. Chilwell set up for, James set up for. So there is massive reasons to be positive. But please get Grealish on the pitch.
I'm also-
if Grealish isn't selected over Sterling,
Yeah.
I'll lose my mind on
But
Sunday.
like, what was it, like 34 of Sterling's 61 caps have come under Southgate, and Southgate is a continuity guy, doesn't he? And he likes to...
He's out of form though. He's also
Nah,
a bit of a
but-
form guy.
But what
I
I
think.
like, Sterling for sure, like he didn't score, what was it, in 20 plus games, then he came back, scored 10 in 10. Like, I think Southgate's style of management is geared towards getting the best out of Sterling. And I also think that like, Sterling's got something to prove coming into this tournament. Like, he's had a weird season at Man City, hasn't he? I think only KDB put up more goals and assists than him at Man City, but no one would say like he's been that special
talk
for
about him
City
leaving.
in a title-winning campaign. I think by his own admission, he actually described it as weird. So I want to see Sterling like fired up, ready to prove the doubters wrong, with a bit of a chip on his shoulder,
Please.
and Southgate being like, go and do it. Because I think people clocked how important he was to England during 2018 when teams sat back in that deep block. Then he just found that space in behind. I'm hoping he does that once again, and people just don't overestimate Jack Grealish and underestimate Sterling. But
the
Jack
opposition,
Grealish,
hopefully
special
they
to
do
watch.
to their peril, because like our forward line, even like we're not discussed Rashford once.
Yeah.
And I know he had a dip towards the back end of the season, but he is one of the most dangerous players in Europe when he's fit and firing, Rashford, and he can come inside and shoot, or he can beat you on the outside. And the connection with Luke Shaw has been fantastic all season at Manchester
I
United.
like Luke Shaw at left centre back, by the way. I think he was great there for Manchester United, and I can't stand a right footer on the left hand side for England.
No, I agree. And also can carry the ball into the midfield, can overlap outside
Unreal carrier of the ball.
Chilwell
Unreal.
slots in there. Massively underrated carrier of the ball. So I think I'm very positive. The more it goes, by Sunday, I'll be convinced we're winning the Euros.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
I think we're only like anxious about it because it's just not obvious, like in defence.
Yeah.
Like the rest of it, the team kind of picks itself. I think.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
You get a win in that first game, you get some momentum. Do you remember the first game of the 2018 World Cup against Tunisia?
Yeah.
Really
Harry
ugly.
Kane back post header.
Really ugly. And from then we thrashed Panama, and everyone was like, fucking hell, we're going to win this. So yeah, good result against Croatia.
Yes,
My
please.
mood will improve.
Yes, I'm begging it. All right, so we've rattled off loads of these. We've spoken about the Raheem Sterling conundrum. Who are you backing to be England's most important player? Let's finish with that question.
I think on the basis of what he's playing around him, I think John Stones has to have a very, very good tournament, which I back him to. I thought he was phenomenal this year for Man City, and a lot of people quite unfairly were like, oh, it's because he's playing alongside Ruben Dias. He's a great leader, and he is, and he's a great player as well, Ruben Dias. But I think that's a bit rude on John Stones. So I want John Stones to have the tournament that I know he can, and just shut up the Ditas for a
he's
while.
in a crucial position, John Stones.
I think that's a really good answer, yeah.
Yeah.
Particularly, it's a better way of saying Harry Maguire again.
I do think Declan Rice though has a massive role to play as that, especially with Henderson's injury. Even if it's Henderson and he's only 60%, 70% fit, Bellingham's so young. Declan Rice needs to have a storming defensive midfield tournament, mop up everything, and give the ball to better players. Yeah. Because if he doesn't, and he underperforms, and you're playing an underperforming midfielder alongside an injured midfielder, an underperforming midfielder alongside a 17-year-old, is a huge issue.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say someone in that central midfield as well. Whether that is Henderson returning, proving the doubters wrong, proving is wrong, that he is fit and he's ready to play. Obviously, he hadn't played for his club. Was it February last played?
Yeah.
Christ, I couldn't even think then. So yeah, Bellingham or Rice for me. You just need one of those central midfielders to not only protect that back three or back four, whatever it is, but just get the ball, transition it to our forward line, which is could be destructive in the
I
tournament.
think it'll be interesting as well with the 5 subs and so few central midfielders now, because Southgate went for White rather than Ward-Prowse. Calvin Phillips is even going to get a lot of minutes off the bench or in some of the weaker games, maybe against the Czech Republic. So it'll be interesting to see how much he can step up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely buzzing about the tournament. Let us know what you think about it in the comments below. Is it coming home? Of course it's bloody coming home. Let us know who you think could be dark horses, top scorer, all your predictions in the comments below. Hit the like button, hit subscribe. Yeah, anything else for the boys to check out?
Shout out the Rookery, mate.
Yeah, shout out the Rookery in Clapham. By the way, come down, check it out. Good beer, good atmosphere. Yeah, thanks very much for watching, everybody. See you next week. Bye.